I cannot stop. You come at 9:30, I'm there at 7. You're going to leave at 5, I'm there till late.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about those things. You hire for the will, not the skill. If you have the will, the skill will follow.
Founder and CEO of Bioniq, a personalized nutrition company that focuses on customized supplements tailored to your individual health needs. Vadim Fedotov.
The supplement industry is $254 billion a year of people taking things that most likely do not do any difference to them. In the beginning, when you're so optimistic and so loud about your brand, one of the mistakes we made, I think, cost us probably $10 to $15 million.
With backing from athletes such as Diogo Dalot and Cristiano Ronaldo,
you received that phone call. Certain somebody by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo joined the team. The only thought process, how we do not screw this up.
You see a spike in orders.
Yes, so I mean, we're talking about 1,000% in spikes. I mean, figures that we've never come close with. So I'm meeting with Cristiano in Lisbon a couple of weeks ago, and there's Mike Thurston on that slide as one of the Bioniq partners. And Cristiano looks at Mike Thurston and says, "Oh, I think I know him. Good podcast."
No
Yes.
way. What's up, guys, and welcome back to First Things Thirst. We have a special guest today, Vadim Fedotov. How are you doing, my friend? Or should I say partner?
Partner. Thank you for having me. I'm doing wonderful. It's been a while. We planned this a long time ago, but for you and I held back until it was finally public so we can actually get on a podcast to talk about it.
Well, we actually kind of did an unofficial podcast a couple of years ago for my main YouTube channel, which was like, that was kind of like an indication that I should probably start going in that direction. So a hell of a lot has changed since then,
except for the view. The
view
is similar. The view is similar.
You definitely look younger.
I definitely look younger. I don't know what happened, man. The supplements must be working
for sure. So first of all, just to introduce yourself to everybody, where are you from?
Yeah.
What was your upbringing like?
Sure. So I'm Vadim Fedotov. I'm 39 years old. I was born in St. Petersburg when I was 6. We moved to Germany. To a beautiful Olympic village south of Munich called Garmisch-Partenkirchen. So I had typical German upbringing, wearing lederhosen, drinking beer, way too young, and doing the whole thing. But because my family's background, my dad was a professional athlete. He was a tennis player. Mm-hmm. He was #1 tennis player in Russia. I always had this thing for sports and competitiveness, and I wanted to achieve something. So very early on, I started playing variety of sports. One of them was basketball. And when I realized that I'm quite tall, I'm 2 meters and 4, 6'9", I kind of started pursuing that. And I went that route. And at 16, I got scouted for the German national team. And then that just took on its life on its own. And then I started playing internationally, playing against the US national team. American scouts saw me. I got recruited to play for Division I in New York. So I played Division I basketball over there. And that was kind of like my professional upbringing, where it's like you go from, passion and hobby to professional sports. And then during this professional sports, you kind of realize, okay, what it takes to be on the highest level, what performance is like, what you need to do to look after your body. And in my case, I had 4 torn ACLs. Mm-hmm. And this funny story is the 4 torn ACLs, I'm still to this day, I think, the only player who ever came back after 4 torn ACLs, which is not a record I'm proud of, but there's a Wikipedia page about that.
Was it on the same leg or?
It was 3 on the left, 1 on the right. But the crazy thing is every single surgery was different. Uh-huh. So a lot of people who follow sports know that Germany is known for the knee experts. Yeah. So when the first time I tore my ACL, they're like, oh, we have this knee guru. He's going to take care of you. So I meet this knee guru. I meet this guy, and the guy's like, listen, I have this new thing coming. We just developed this. We're gonna put human growth hormones into your torn ACL, stick it back together. You're gonna, in 3 months' time, you're gonna play again. And I'm like 19. I'm like, do you think it works? I'm like, if you would be my son, I would recommend you to do that. I'm like, okay, thanks, Dad. So I did the surgery. 3 months later, I'm back on the court. The whole arena full. Everybody writes about miracle surgery. Vadim is back in record time. I'm in time back for the for the European Championship in the summer. Everything's great. The doctor's at the game. The doctor comes up to me. He's like, hey, don't think about your leg. Everything's perfect. The only thing you can't do is you can't spin on it while somebody hits you. I'm like, you can't spin on it while somebody hits me. I'm like, that's fine, thanks. 12 minutes into the game, I spin on it. Somebody hits me. I tear it again. Fuck. So my professional career, out of 8 years, I spent 4 years rehabbing. So I knew quite early on that sports will be a very limited amount of time of my life.
That last injury, how old were you then?
I was 24. So another funny story, which is like a Hollywood movie. So imagine your parents who have never been to the US. Mm-hmm. you're playing in the US, you're like the big man on campus, like you're doing good, you're on ESPN, national television, you're on video game, you're on billboards, everybody knows you. Like you're proud of it, right? You made it. So I'm like, hey dad, fly out, you need to see me, you need to see me in person, I'm doing really well. So my dad's like, okay, gets on a plane, flies to New York, comes to Buffalo, I'm playing for the Buffalo Bulls. They invite him, first row, put him down. Everybody puts him on a jumbotron. Applaud. Dad of one of the players here, first time in the U.S. Let's make him feel at home. I'm playing really well. First shot in, second shot in, swish. I'm goosebumps. Everything's amazing. 20 minutes go by. Some guy rams some money. I tear my ACL again, right in front of my dad. So it's like it's just not meant to be.
Yeah, it was not meant to be.
And I knew I tore it because anybody who ever tore an ACL, there's a sound that goes like this. And everybody in the arena is like, no, don't tell me you did it again. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I was waiting for my dad to leave 2 days later. Right. And after he left and flew back, I was like, yeah, I tore it again. He's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, I didn't want you to worry. So yeah, that was my last time. It's 23, 24. But it was funny because it happened while he was there for the first and only time ever seeing me play. So it's a Hollywood film.
So whilst you were playing the basketball, were you doing any studying at the same time?
So you're not allowed to play college basketball unless you're actually studying.
Yeah.
So you have to be a full-time student. Mm-hmm. And secondly, you have to keep a certain level of grades, which is interesting because what happens in college basketball is they get you into the school under the basketball team, and they're so worried that your grades will be too low that they suggest you to take the easiest classes there are. Mm-hmm. So I come, a German school, went to a private school, decent education, liked studying, liked education. I come in there and they're like, yeah, you probably should study geography. I'm like, why would I study geography? I'm like, well, you're already from Europe, so you already know that part. I'm like, no, I really would like to actually learn something. They're like, what would you like to do? I'm like, I'd like to do business. They're like, you want to do business administration? I'm like, yeah, while playing basketball. That's almost impossible. It's way too difficult. You're not going to, keep up with the classes. I'm like, why don't you just do a semester and we can look after that? So I did a semester. It was good. It was, I think it was all academic in all of the whole country. So when I graduated, I graduated one of the top 5 academics. So I did the whole business. I actually did a double major, but the requirement is you have to study.
Yeah.
And a lot of student athletes have issues with studying while playing because playing takes a lot of time. You don't go to classes a lot. You're always late on papers. Mm-hmm. So it's like a balance. But because of A, my upbringing, B, my love for education, C, I knew I'm not going to be a professional athlete. So when you know that your career is going to end by 24, you don't have dreams about the NBA. You're going to take studying much more serious. Yeah. So one of the jokes was I had a subscription to Wall Street Journal in our locker room. So every morning when my coach would come in and be like, "Yeah, give it all," like Sparta style, like we're gonna go out there and die together. And I'm like reading page 2. What's the NASDAQ doing? What's the S&P like? And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, coach, I'll be right there. He's like, oh, Fedotov, man. So it was very clear from the get-go that sports was just a limited amount of time, and then everything after that will be the important part.
So it wasn't like that devastating when you kind of closed the door?
It was devastating when I toured my first time, because when I toured my first time I was 19. I was captain of the German national team. I just got I was just the MVP of the All-Star game. I was like, I thought I'm the best thing since sliced bread. So I tore my ACL and I'm like, okay, I'll get back. And then the realization came actually afterwards. And this is the crazy thing is, imagine the following. So Germany is 82 million people. Mm-hmm. Basketball is a top 5 sport. It's not soccer, it's not football, but it's a very, very popular sport. There's a lot of people playing basketball. So I'm the best in my year. I'm the best I'm like a captain. I'm like a top 5, top 10 player in the whole country. Some might say maybe one of the best. And I go to the US. And you arrive in the US thinking you are the best.
Yeah, you're about to get humbled real quick.
And I go to a team which is not Duke or North Carolina, where all the NBA players play. I go to Buffalo. Buffalo is a good team. It's a top 25, top 50 school on a good year. And a bad year, they're not as good, right? Mm-hmm. And on a team, there's 15 players. And out of 15 players, I'm number 13. So you're the best in your country, and you go to a decent team, and you're not even making the first 2 starting 5s. Mm-hmm. And you're getting so humbled, and it becomes such a psychological thing. I mean, we're talking about 19-year-old, 20-year-old guys crying after practice, calling their parents, thinking they want to go back home. Like, you're laying in bed. I was listening to German rap music to calm myself down, because you're like, what the hell am I doing here? So it's such a wake-up moment from like the previous privilege, kind of like, you know, I'm the best there is, to like, you have nothing on. Really, what really takes to be good, you don't know yet. You'll get through it by year 2, 3, 4. And once you find out what you really need to do to be great, you realize do you actually want to do it or not. And a lot of people don't want to do it.
You think these guys who are exceptionally good are literally gifted with a talent, or it's something they've actually worked for?
Unfortunately, for everybody out there who is going to put a lot of time in their workouts, I've seen people getting hammered, having chicken McNuggets 3 minutes before workout, and freaking for 3 hours straight, sprinting without a break, dunking on everybody, not missing a shot. And you have people like me who go to bed at 10 p.m., having a cold plunge, having, you know, some hot therapy, eating, you know, whole foods, taking the right supplements, and I barely get up, you know, up to a layup. So there's things I've never seen people who were not able to speak or sit straight up 2 hours later, dropping 20, 25 points. Just because of the gift that they had. And then you have people who worked every single day of their lives, had personal trainers, had, you know, additional workouts, ran up the hills, did everything, and we're just, you know, dead halfway through. So there is a certain level of talent that is just the baseline. But then when the talented ones work out, that's when you get to the NBA. I've played with 60, 70 people who actually ended up in the NBA. I played with, you know, Marc Gasol is probably one of the best. He's like Defensive Player of the Year, champion. I know when you combine talent, God-given talent, with work ethic, how good you can become. I never had that talent. I always had the work ethic. I was like the glue guy. I was like the defensive anchor. I'm like the guy who doesn't care what he needs to do on the court. I'll do it as long as it's good for our team. It doesn't matter like how wild it is, I'll do it. So that was like kind of like my whole thing. But you realize really quick that talent is something you can't teach.
So what happened after that? I mean, I guess you kind of knew that you could bounce back on the education that you'd got. Like, did you go straight into setting up a business, working for somebody else?
So I think it's very naive to think that, because a lot of people have a degree. Most people have a degree when they finish college. So I finished college. I remember I sent my resume like to 60 companies. 59 just refused. One said you can work for free and get a commission. And I was like, wait, I just got a double degree. I'm an all academic. Nobody could care less. Like, there's so much supply of talent after the university. So nobody was waiting for me to join the workforce. When I realized that, I quickly kind of, you know, changed a little bit my approach. I'm like, maybe additional education, getting an MBA.
You were still in Germany at the time?
I was in the US. I just graduated in the US. I'm in New York. I sent out my resume to 60 different companies in the US. Majority of them don't even speak, don't even talk to me, don't even respond to me, right? Like, obviously I started with the top companies like McKinsey and BCG, but then you go to the local companies and they're like, yeah, no, we're good. Talk to us in a year or two. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so professional sports is done. My corporate career doesn't really want to take off. Did
you get much money from the basketball? Like,
so when you're a college athlete, you're officially an amateur. You're not allowed to get money. So my scholarship itself was probably worth $450,000, but that's majority is covered for tuition, covered for food, covered for living. The cash part is minimal. What happens now for the last 2 years, it's called the NIL, or the naming rights. Now people get paid. So now you have athletes in college making hundreds, millions of dollars a year. 20 years ago, dude, I can barely buy a PlayStation, you know, every semester. Like, you wouldn't get that money. It's a lot of value that you get, but there was not a lot of cash. And then I was offered to play professionally in Europe. And that was a funny conversation. So I've finished my career. I'm not good enough in the NBA. I get offers to play in Europe. And I'm like, the offers are decent. It's 6 figures, but it's low 6 figures. And you're like, okay, so I'm 24. I have bad knees. Corporately, nobody wants me. NBA is not good enough. Should I play in Europe? And I had this moment where my grandmother, my dad's mom, was like, wait, you're going to go play for 6 years in Europe to make a little bit of money? So then when you're 30, you're going to be a 6'9" tall intern bringing people coffee? She's like, no. If you're going to do corporate route, you need to start now. And I was like, you're way too big to be the intern at 30 something. So it was kind of like the idea, I need to get to the workforce right away. And that's how everything started. The way it started was, I was like, okay, nobody in the workforce needs me. I need to improve my profile. The way you improve your profile is you get additional education. Back then was considered an MBA would, set you apart. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get an MBA. So I was like, if you get an MBA, where are you going to go? You go to Harvard, you go to Stanford. So I fly to Harvard, I go to Stanford. I'm doing the admissions process. They're like, this is very great, very interested, good grades. Unfortunately, we don't take people right out of university. You need to get some work experience. I'm like, I can't get a work experience because nobody wants to hire me. They're like, sir, well, that's your problem, not our problem. Come back in 2-3 years. I'm like, okay. Is there a university out there that would take me right away? So one of the universities that I applied to that responded positively was the University of Miami. So like great school, ACC school, good reputation, good network, good alumni base. So I'm like, okay, perfect. So I'm in New York, about to drive down to Miami, and they're like, no. Because you already did the undergrad in business, you can skip the first semester. So you can skip the first 6 months, come to us in January, which turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. So they skipped the first 6 months. I fly back to Europe. Instead of looking for a job, I'm looking for an internship. Because as an intern, it's much easier to find a placement because the company, there's a limited time you get to. The payment's minimal. So I get hired by a management consultancy company in Germany right away for 3 months. They put me on a project, and I become part of the project. And the one thing that I realized, I'm really good once I'm in the door. So once I'm in the door, I'll figure it out. Bringing me in might be difficult, but once I'm in, so I got into the project. I worked in the project for 3 months.
Is it a big company or small?
It was a boutique management company. It was a spin-off from management consultancy is a multi-billion-dollar business. There's like 10, 12 humongous companies, and a lot of companies who are spin-off of those big ones. So this was on a spin-off about a Roland Berger, German company that some people might know. It's still like making hundreds of millions of dollars revenue. So I'm part of this company as an intern on a project, and the project goes so well that after the end of my internship, the head of the firm says, we would like to hire you full-time and for you to open up a new office for us, to set up a new place, a new office in Moscow, to open up our new office for the group. And I'm like, but I have university, MBA. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, were you trying to go get an MBA to then get a job like that you're getting offered right now? I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I never went back to school. I was there. I set up the company, the holding company, set up the office, and worked there for 2 years.
How are you so good? Like, to begin with, from you, this was your first time.
It was my first. I was an internship. I think people skills and sports. I think there's two aspects here. In sports, you learn it's team first. You always support each other. You understand communication. And there's one thing that nobody can ever beat me on. Nobody can outwork me. There's one thing that you will never meet a person. What is sports in college? It's a 5:30 every morning. You're in the gym for an hour and a half. So an hour and a half at 5:30 in the morning every morning, 13 days in a row. 9:30 you have a workout for 2 hours. 6 p.m. you have a 2-hour run, so gym run, you play basketball. So every morning from 5:30 to 7:30, from 9:30 to 11:30, from 6 to 8, you are physically active. Nobody cares if you hurt, if something's wrong with you, you are there. You don't miss practice, you don't miss games. When you move from that kind of world into a corporate setting where it says, come to office 9:30, sit in a chair till 5 p.m., make sure your lunch break's not longer than 1 hour. I'm going to come in, I'm going to bust anybody because I'm better.
You're already wired that way.
I am. I cannot stop. You come at 9:30, I'm there at 7. You're going to leave at 5, I'm there till 8. You're going to take a lunch break for an hour. I don't need lunch. Like, I don't care about those things. All I care about, like, in my corporate career, and what is it, probably 13, 14 years, you know how many sick days I had? Zero. Because there's no such thing that I'm too sick to sit in a chair. And the mindset is just there. Like, while playing basketball, there was a class we had to take. It was basic education. It was like, we had to do a yoga class. And the yoga teacher comes in, she says, get all your force and breathe through your nose. I had torn ACL left, torn ACL right, my left and right knee. I broke my ankle. I had arthritis in both of my wrists, and I just broke my nose for the 3rd time. So I'm there on my 4th, breathing through my nose. I'm thinking, if I can handle this, I can sit in a chair. So the reason why I understood the assignment, I understood the team, and my bosses knew, like, this guy doesn't miss. He like, I don't care if I'm there or not there, I know he will be there. And it's easy to put additional, like, I right now hire people, you hire for the will, not the skill. If you have the will, the skill will follow. If you hire people for the skill will be outdated soon. Without the will, they will not keep up to date. So this was me. They hired me for the will, and then figured everything else out.
You're like the dream intern. Just came there and just absolutely smashed it.
Absolutely loved it. And I loved everything of it. And the one thing I remember was like at the end of my internship, I had a presentation to give. As I spoke with the client, it was like a big client, it was a big project, a couple $1 million, like it's a big thing. And after the presentation, I had like the goosebumps, and I went back to my boss and I'm like, hey dude, last time I had those goosebumps was I was playing basketball. Maybe corporate career can give me a little bit of that adrenaline that I used to have from playing sports. And he's like, well, bet it does, because you've been acting like an athlete the whole time. So I kind of got my adrenaline kicks and my mojo from the corporate world through that part.
Yeah. So they then hire you.
They hired me.
How long did you stay?
I run there for 2 years. I run this for 2 years. And then this is 2011. And my people might remember. 2011, there was a company called Groupon. And this company got famous. It was the fastest growing company in the history.
Yeah.
It's called collective buying. So Groupon got huge. They went from 0 to 1 billion quicker than any company ever did. So they hired me to run Eastern Europe for them. And I became the youngest CEO at 26 years old. And I joined them before the IPO. So they IPO'd in end of 2011. So A, global company, 48 countries. B, you run one of the largest markets that they have. C, you're pre-IPO, post-IPO. Your whole life, anybody who can think about going public, it's one of the hardest things to do, just the process. And then it's one of the most difficult things to upkeep after you did the public thing. So the fact that I did it so early in my career, it kind of changes a little bit about your dimension. What do you think is possible? Like I come in, I'm responsible for several $100 million a year. Every mistake that I make is 5, 10, 15, 20 million. So figures of that magnitude, they don't become that big to you anymore because you've been through there. So you've done that part. And that early in the career is actually good, because now, if you think about that, I'm like, oh my God, if I just scale down, this money could last me for 5 years. Back then it's like, no, we need to grow everything we have next 2 months. So it's the mindset.
Is it different when it's not your own money?
It's not your money. B, you're 26, 27. C, everybody screams at you more and more and more. The whole market screams at you. Every 3 months, everybody comes out and like, you need to grow faster. But this growth mindset just taught you so much. We had the things that we did back then at Groupon in terms of as a growth company, like we had 34 offices in our region. We would fly out every single head of the office. So 34 people fly in every Monday to our central office. We would sit for 2 hours. Everybody has to talk about their sales for the previous week. And if you don't hit your sales for the previous week, you get a yellow card. And if you don't hit it 2 times in a row, you get a second yellow card and you're out. So people would fly in knowing that if they miss 2 weeks in a row their targets, they're out of the company. And that's how we grew the business. It was one of the most,
it's that pressure.
It was crazy. It's like up or out. It's like you either make it or you're out. It's one of this incredible mindset. And the whole global team was like this. It was one of the things that we did then, like right now, everybody would be like, psychological pressure is too high. You can't do this. Like, you work-life balance. Back then, everybody's like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is the best thing ever. There's people who worked with me 12, 13 years ago. They're like, I've never felt this again. I'm like, you can't, because it was a different time. But going through that experience, going through that growth period where you go from 0 to several $100 million a year, I think that was really, really impactful in a lot of things.
Was there ever a point during that where you think, hang on, I could probably do this and set up my own thing?
So I turned 30. And I go a little bit in the world of corporate ventures, where you look into businesses and you start speaking to founders to invest into the founders' corporate money. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm really that good, like, young CEO, good education, did my whole thing. If, being an athlete is really a benefit for corporate growth, why am I not actually creating value myself? Why am I taking other people's money to give it to other people? Where is the value creation that I think I should achieve? And I think that kind of hit me once I crossed the 30. And I was like, okay, but what is it? What am I passionate about? What am I good at? What can I grow? Like, what would I like to do? What are other people? How did a person come up with a startup? Like, you want to be a founder, you want to be an entrepreneur. How do you know what to do? So that was kind of the questions that I had. And like the help I had, I knew I liked 2 things the most. It was education and health. So I loved the educational aspect. I loved learning more. I love teaching. And health related, because of professional athlete, because of the recovery part, because I understood your little toe. When I had hurt my little toe, it stopped me from doing more things than if I rolled my ankle. Like the way your body works is so interesting. And it always blew my mind how the most smallest thing has the biggest
like
impact.
a freaking paper cut.
Yes.
The most annoying thing ever.
The most annoying thing ever. Like there's certain things that just change your mindset.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I think those two things are something I would like to be passionate about. And that's kind of like where my road started to Bioniq, where it's like, okay, where's my passion? Where's my knowledge? What can I get behind? What would I do for free for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
I think that's an important part where you don't have to ever motivate me to talk about health, to share about health, to invest into health, to do something healthy, because I'll do it naturally. Like every day, there's no day go by where I don't think about it or do something in regards to health related things.
Yeah. So was there anything else before Bioniq? Do you invest in any companies?
No, I invested in different companies. When I invested in companies, I invested.
This is your own money at this point? Or was it still
my own money.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's I invested as an angel investor in other companies, but I invested in companies, unfortunately, because I thought it's the right thing to do. It was not something that, one of the investments that I made was in a marketplace for construction material. Made sense. Construction material is about to be disrupted. There's a marketplace. You can get everything in one place. Do I know anything about construction material? No. Do I know anything about marketplace construction material? No. Like, why did I do it? The sector made sense, but my knowledge was not there. So when you realize basically, I was dumb money.
Yeah.
When you look for investors, people ask, what are you looking for? You look for money or you look for smart money? I was the dumb money. Like, just take my money. There's no additional value I can give you.
Yeah.
And I realized dumb money is bad for everyone. It's bad for me because I have no impact on the business. It's bad for the founder because he doesn't have a sparring partner or a strategic partner that he can talk with. So my investments were unfortunately not as good. One of them was a loyalty program, like a loyalty program for a bank. What do I know about loyalty programs for banks?
So there's no investments in health.
There was no investments in health. And all of them failed.
Yeah.
And I'm not glad. Of course, I'm not glad it failed. But it was an indicator. I can't just build any business just because something is growing. It doesn't mean I can just jump on it and just build it. Number one. Number two is stick to the things you know. So Warren Buffett says, if you don't understand the business, don't invest in it. There's it's very, very clear. Like, I understand Coca-Cola, I understand McDonald's. He invests in those things because he understands them. Like, he understands insurance, so he invests in them. So the same thing is when you're going to build something, I want to build something that I understand first and foremost, because the moment I understand it, I can tell you and explain it to you.
Yeah. So how did Bioniq come about? The very early days. I mean, I guess you must have realized, hey, maybe there's a bit of a gap in the market here.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
What year was this?
So
when you were kind of thinking
2000.
about it?
So I started thinking in 2016, 2017. So back then, I'm listening to Tim Ferriss, to his book 4 Hour Body. A lot of people probably read 4 Hour Body. There's like what to do, what not to do. Tim Ferriss tracked how to gain muscle, how to lose fat, how to do certain things. So I'm reading this book. I'm like into it. Then there's a lot of things coming up. There's the bulletproof coffee where you put where you put MCT oil and ghee, where you're like, oh my god. Then it's like the whole fasting thing. Ketosis is on the rise. Everybody's like on the keto strips, peeing in a cup or cutting their fingers to figure out if they have ketosis or not. So I'm like reading the books, implementing those things, getting personal trainers, drinking ghee butter with.
He was like the OG biohacker, just experimenting on himself.
Yes, which I loved, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Listen, the things that he did, he would weigh his own poop. Like, he would go in the bathroom, like, hey, if I eat this and this is how much gets out of me. Like he would go in the restaurant on a date, and during meals he would do squats because he realized that he does squats between portions, like in meals, his absorption would be lower. So the food would get through him quicker. Like, imagine being on a date and the guy gets up, goes to the bathroom, all sweaty. Like, what happened? Well, I did some squats and I weighed my poop. But I'm all good now. Like, that's him. And you're sitting there. It's incredible. You read through it. So I did that. I read the recommendation list he did. The bulletproof coffee. I did the ketosis. I did all of that while weighing like probably 40 pounds more than I weigh right now, while being completely out of shape, while not being able to work out in the evening because I'm too tired the whole day, while having brain fog. And I'm like, wait, how does somebody with my professional sports background, with my resources and my time and my access to all those solutions, to all those books, to all this education, feel so horribly physically, look so bad at the same time, while having all this? Like, something is obviously wrong.
Yeah.
So I started looking around, asking around, like, why do all those things don't match for me? Why, if I drink those pills, I had at home like 40 different, vitamin bottles. I'm like, every single day I would try something else, take this, take that. Like, I didn't understand if they work or didn't work. I took the dosage that was on the label. So I'm like, I have no clue if any of this stuff actually works.
Yeah.
So one of my friends like, hey, there's a really good doctor, go see him. So I go to the doctor and like, hey, why are you here? I'm like, well, I have symptoms. He's like, what kind of symptoms? I'm like, I'm fatigued. I'm overweight. I have brain fog. My energy levels are not there. You know, like all those things that you wouldn't expect to have at 32, right? And he's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, but doesn't I know exactly what you need. I'm like, what do you need? He's like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I'm like, oh, perfect. So I'm like, okay, what's the next step? He's like, we're going to do a blood test for like $1,000 and you come back next week and I'll tell you exactly what to do. So I'm like, perfect. So I do the blood test, pay $1,000, think like this is my real investment in myself. I feel really good about myself. I go away for a week. I come back. I can't wait, like holy grail moment. This doctor's going to tell me exactly what to do. I walk into his office. The guy looks, oh, hey, yeah, you again. Prints out the PDF, looks at the PDF for like 20 seconds, looks at me. I see it's the first time he's ever seen this PDF.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, you're not ill. You're fine. I'm like, but doctor, my symptoms. He's like, yep, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, listen, you see this? I'm like, yeah, there's nothing that I can treat you for. I cannot prescribe you anything because you're not lacking anything enough to get prescription for. I'm like,
how many parameters is it?
It was a proper test. It was a big test. It was still, but he's like, there's nothing I can prescribe you on based on your current status of your health. I'm like, but my symptoms, my brain fog, my fatigue levels, my overweight, like all of my metabolism is still there. And he's like, I understand, but traditional medicine treats you once you're ill.
Yeah.
And this is my aha moment. This is the,
so there's no prevention.
It's not prevention. It's not optimization. It's literally about reactive. It's reacting to something that has already happened. And this is my aha moment 2017. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to a different doctor. I'm going to look around. I'm like, I need to find out if this is just a bad doctor or there's a systematic issue in terms of healthcare, traditional healthcare, in terms of how they treat. And the more I looked into it, the more I looked into other doctors, the more I looked into professional teams, the more I looked into Silicon Valley startups, I realized it's either reactive or very, very separated by itself. So for example, 2017, company like 23andMe is a DNA company. I'm like, pops up, everybody wants to know more about the DNA levels, what's going on in cell with the body. It's like, oh, this is super interesting. But I realized one thing, your DNA is chronic. It doesn't change. Your DNA is the same. So how do I know something works or doesn't work? I don't know. Over time, there will be no change to DNA. I'm like, that doesn't work. Then there's supplementation. Take 2 pills. I'm like, you take 2 pills, I too take pills. Well, you need 3, I need 7. She needs 1. This guy shouldn't take any.
Yeah.
Why are we taking all the same? So supplementation is a one-off, doesn't work. And then I realized there's a company that does at-home blood testing, and people really like buying it. Every 3 months to do a blood test. But you get a PDF just like with the doctor, and you don't know what to do with it, so it's not actionable. So I thought to myself, if somebody can combine educating people what's going on in their body on a regular basis and give them regular solutions, I think that might be something of interest. But again, I'm not a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I need to research more. And during this part where I was like opening up and figuring out, is there a solution that grows with you over time, that evolves with you over time? I met this neuroscientist who did clinical studies in Switzerland on Olympic athletes. And his goal was to improve cognitive physical function of Olympic athletes without having any doping issues. So anything has to be WADA approved. And this guy, over 7 years, 952 athletes, found out that if your micronutrient levels, so your vitamin and microelement levels, are optimized, you're on average 10 days per year less sick. 10 days for an Olympic athlete, for a 25-year-old. And this optimization would cause 6.9% improvement on physical standardized tests. So your VO2 max, your bench presses, your runs, your speed, up to 7%. And you know, and I know, 1% is humongous for a professional athlete. 6.9% is unheard of. Cognitive functions, so the speed and the memory would improve up to 1.5 times. So people, their brain would work better. And I'm like, this is just because of the deficiencies? Like, yes, because when the body doesn't have to fight deficiencies, it can focus on recovery. And when it focuses on recovery, you actually build up more. And I'm like, I have a question. If an Olympic athlete can improve by 6.9%, how much can an average person improve? He's like 35 to 50%. I'm like, can you scale this? He's like, if we would have enough data, you can scale it on millions of people. So this is 2017. So I'm like, I want to try it. But I want the whole Olympic athlete approach. So we did Olympic athlete, could cost me like $3,500 for like a month. We did, we did microbiome, we did urine tests, we did DNA tests, we did 180 blood parameters, like Swiss-made granules.
This is with the Olympic athletes.
With the Olympic athletes. I was like part of that group. I wanted to have the complete experience that they had. So I went through the cycle. We did the blood test. We got the personalized micronutrition. I would start taking the product. We redo the blood test, and almost all of my parameters improve except for my liver function. My liver function doesn't improve. And he's like, interesting. Okay, let's do it again. So again, we do new supplementation. I take new supplementation. I take them again. We do a new blood test. Everything remained good. My liver didn't change. And this is where his system said we need to dig deeper into the liver function. And he found out that there's a Gilbert defect. So 20% of men have a Gilbert defect where your liver is limited in its capabilities, which I didn't know about. And we were able to find out because we did continuous testing that I had this issue. And the only thing you can improve it is portion size. So by reducing your portion that you intake.
Portion sizes of what?
Of food.
Okay.
But by reducing that part, your body, instead of fighting with the portions, can focus on other things. So I started eating more meals per day, reducing the portion size, liver bilirubin went down, and my energy levels came back up, my cognitive function improved. So he basically, through his continuous system, through supplementation, was able to show me what was wrong with me, what caused all my symptoms. And I'm like, this is incredible. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So I bought out the intellectual property from the 7 years of research as a foundational tool. And 2018, before Bioniq, set up a pilot. And it was 40 people. It was former employees, friends of friends. I wanted people who are close to me, but not too close. So it gave me the real feedback. So I gave for 40 people free Bioniq. So do a blood test, get personalized supplements, and do a blood test again. And after the second blood test, I did the most important thing for any test. I said, who wants to continue? Who's willing to pay to continue? Because that's the true question. The question is not who wants to continue when it's free. The question is how much money. Put your money behind it. And one of the people, and a lot of people who want to continue, was head of performance at UFC. So UFC out of Nevada. He's like, I love it. I want to continue. A couple months go by 2018. In November of 2018, I get a phone call from him. He's like, hey man, I just spoke to my boss, the senior vice president of the UFC. Can you fly out to Las Vegas to meet us? I'm like, sure. So I fly to Vegas, meet with them at the UFC Performance Center, sit there in this huge room, and they're like, "We've never seen a product like this before." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We have never seen this kind of approach to personalized nutrition or supplementation in the whole market." And when you're a founder, especially when you're not in the middle of Silicon Valley, you always think whatever you do is not that special, or that somebody else is doing it, or somebody is doing it much better than you. Right? You always question yourself. You can't believe there's 7 billion people. Nobody came up with such a basic idea, or somebody's doing it already. And he said that to me. I'm like, what you're doing is special. We've never seen like this before. I'm like, what we're doing is special. And I was like, you know what? I flew back, quit my day job. 2 months later, launched Bioniq in London. Set up the company in London in 2019, and that's how Bioniq started.
So I mean, it makes sense, because I remember when I was getting into the whole health and fitness thing for at least like 10 years, I would always try and research like what supplements should I be consuming. And then I would be like, okay, I need some of this. I need some of this. Apparently I need some of this as well. And then like you, I had this big cupboard full of supplements. And then I'm thinking, I mean, I really don't have a clue what I should be taking or in what quantity.
Or when.
Or when as well, yeah. So, but as far as I was aware, there was nothing on the market that would address this. There was, as far as I knew, no tailored supplements. And even getting a blood test, it wasn't like a normal thing. Maybe it was, or I just wasn't aware of it.
You would do a blood test. Your vitamin D would be low with 99.9%. There was you go to the pharmacy and buy vitamin D, and then you would drink 2,000 IU of vitamin D.
Or it could be 5,000 or 10,000.
But you would do 2,000 because it says 2,000 on the bottle. And then 3 months later, you do another vitamin D test, and your vitamin D is low. And you wonder why. I've been drinking the whole time. Well, because the dosage was wrong for you, or you didn't absorb, or your body blocked it with other things that you were taking, and all those kind of things. The supplement business, the supplement industry is a $250 trillion, $254 billion a year of people taking things that most likely do not do any difference to them.
Yeah.
At best, they don't cause harm. That's at best. So that's the baseline. But the efficacy of it is not proven. Anybody who sells supplements today sells you hope. Yeah. They sell you hope like, hey, this should improve you. But nobody's ever told you, why don't you test it? We're like, hey, we believe a product works. Please look for yourself. Here's when you started, here's us 3 months later. Now you have over 100,000 of people who did that. Now we got to the point where we have the largest data set of continuous blood testing for supplements in the world. Now we built an algorithm that's patented that can predict what people need. So what we're doing is we're trying to get to a science-backed and proven approach to supplementation, because I don't want you to put something in your body and you don't even know if it works or it doesn't work. Just because it's somebody told you or because you feel better about it. Well, how about it works and you feel better about it and you can see that it works, like over time it works. And this is kind of like the idea. It's a very clear thing. The best thing for me as a founder, I don't have to teach you something new. Most people already takes 77% in the people in the US take regular supplementation. I don't need to teach somebody to take supplements. I need to explain to them why personalized is important and why what they're doing currently most likely is not working. And how I explain to them is I have 150,000 people. Most of them took supplements before doing the blood test, and except for 2 people.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
So after 6 years and 150,000 plus people doing regular blood tests, only 2 people had optimal blood test results when they came to us, before they came to us, I mean, at the moment when they started. So the chance that you have optimal levels is 0.0001%.
I remember before the first blood test, I was like I'm a healthy guy. My diet's on point, everything's good. And then I get the results back and I'm like, what the hell? Like there's all these things which is like above optimal, below optimal. I was like, damn, like I had no idea, but I guess it made sense.
But this is you, right? So you're a healthy guy. I'm the founder of the company. I have access. I can do blood tests every week. And I see every 2-3 weeks, I traveled last week. I had too much shellfish, like my uric acid just shot through the roof. My protein levels are down. My testosterone is bad because I overtrained. Like the things that I'm seeing, right? There is no such thing like you can't put your health on autopilot. It doesn't work like this. When people take 2 pills in the morning, it's because they're on autopilot. They brush their teeth, they take the 2 pill vitamins or something, and they move on with their day. I'm glad they're doing it because at least they're on a placebo level. They're doing something good for their health. But if you're going to put something in your body, might as well do something that actually has, a beneficial cause to it.
So back to the formation of Bioniq in London. There's you.
Yeah.
Did you have co-founders?
Yes. So the medical director who did the clinical tests and trials in Switzerland. So again, because I have no medical background. So the idea was I bought out the intellectual property, the clinical trials, and onboarded him as a co-founder to be part of the medical team to grow the business. So we started 2 of us, where I would handle the business side of things. He would handle, obviously, the medical side of things. That's how we started the business to 2019 in London. Yeah.
Was he as enthusiastic as you? Did he see the potential?
Interesting. I think I'm always a little bit the crazy one. I think every startup needs a little bit of a guy who lives 10, 20, 25 years ahead. I don't want to call myself the visionary, but I think I call myself over-optimistic. He was 7 years in. So for 7 years, he has been doing that. So when you do something for 7 years, you might not see the forest because all of the trees, right? So it's like you're like in between. I was seeing the big picture. I did Groupon. So I knew how you can go from 0 to 100 million. I knew how you can go from 0 to IPO. I knew how you can go build $1 billion company. So I knew how big things can happen. I didn't expect it to be so difficult. Like any founder who quote unquote made it will tell you if they would know now what it took, like Nvidia, right? Highest valuation business in the company. The founder said, if I would know today, the guy is a multi-billionaire. He's like, I would never do it again. The most successful people who ever built something big will tell you it's not worth the journey, but they always tell you that when they're already on the other side.
Yeah.
So nobody believes them. They're like, of course you say it's the right thing to say. You don't need them. But everybody's like, no. The things we had to go through, the problems that we faced, the issues that we had, the stress levels that are caused, the health issues, the personal commitments, the personal impact, all those kind of things. If you look, the relationship that you lost, you want to lose friends, start a business and ask them to try your product. You're going to see real quick, like who are your friends and who are like, your acquaintances, and what people want you to succeed, or where people actually liked you more when you were asking or begging for things instead of when you're in a position to actually, impact things. I had people like, I don't need this. I'm not trying to fund your business. I'm like, thanks. I'm not trying for you to fund my business. I'm trying you to try a product that has been proven to work for Olympic athletes that I am taking, my family is taking. And hey, if you want something that works, try it out. There's nothing to do with me. Forget that I exist. This product is, you need this product. They're like, yeah, sure, it's your thing. You're like, okay, like it's fine. Like there's like the stuff that you go through.
It's weird when people, when they think about they're doing all these things, they're spending all this money, their gym membership, all these supplements they're buying, and then there's this thing which is proven to work, and it's like, it's not crazy expensive, but then it's like, it's not cheap. But
it's
like,
70. So there's two products. Bioniq Go is $75 a month. It's $2.50 a day, and Bioniq Pro is $200, which is $6 a day, plus minus $7. So we're talking between $2.50 to $7 a day of investment to your health to get what you need. And you said correctly, they're already spending that money. But it's one of those things where, like, if you don't know me or you're not close to me, you might think that's a great idea. But if you're close to me, you don't want to change your routine because of a product of somebody who you know.
Yeah.
So it's a weird kind of thing on the personal level. On the big scheme of things, I think we're in the very early touch point where people realize that, hey, if I'm going to spend $5, $10 on a coffee, I can spend $2.50 on personalized Swiss-made supplements that are actually proven to improve my health.
Yeah.
And we'll get there. The reason why you and I are here on this podcast today is because we need to shout and scream out loud, hey guys, we're not saying what you're doing is wrong. We're just saying what you can be doing could be better. And not because it's our brand or our company, but because it's actually proven to work based on results. And I said beginning, I wanted to do a company that I would do for free and I would believe in and talk about every day. And this is it. Because it's not me selling you hope. It's like, hey, regardless what you buy. So when you come to us, one of the things that we do as a company, when you fill in a questionnaire, you upload the blood test, you see the recipe that we recommend to you for free. If you, after seeing the recipe, that's how much vitamin D you need, that's how much vitamin C, how much zinc you need, you can go and buy it somewhere else.
Yeah.
We don't charge you for that. It's yours. It's your result. Hey, it's patent technology. We'll tell you. If you think it's better to buy it in a drugstore, be my guest. Hopefully, just stop doing something blindly and hope it works.
Yeah. So going back to the early days, what were they like? I mean, did you only just offer the blood test at that point?
So yes, we only had one product. So the current Bioniq Pro was our product. It was interesting because we launched the company in 2019 out of the UK, out of London, and then Brexit happens. Then you're like setting up the nurses to come to your homes. Then COVID happens. So nurses can't come to your home. So like everything that could have gone wrong, difficulty. So it was the blood test part. It was super hard to scale. We couldn't find enough nurses that people would, take into their home, let them home, or like that fit the brand. So you have a premium brand and people have certain expectations. Then you have limitation on nursery, like a nurse is going to people's homes. Then you have like, how do you scale such a hands-on business? So
it was just in London.
It was just in London. We just launched in London. And then you realize right away that, okay, just one city is not enough. We need to open up more cities. That's how we got to Dubai by 2021, right? Because we realized the early adopters, the innovators in an initial stage per city, there are in every city, but there's a limited amount of them. People like you who are open to new ideas. They're everywhere, but there's not a lot of you. So we as a business decided, okay, how do we scale? We scale by being in more cities. So that's how we grew. We grew. A lot of people are like, oh my God, you're a global company. I'm like, yeah, but we have like 100 people in every city. So people are like, oh my God, you're global. Bioniq sounds big, right? Like Bioniq sounds big. We have offices everywhere. We're available in 12 countries. Yeah, but there's like 20 people in Riyadh. Like back then it was like, we sounded much bigger than we were. And we didn't figure out how to scale. We didn't have the product. So as a startup, there's several stages. There's the seed where you're checking if this idea is viable. Can you actually make it work legally? Then there's a Series A where you're like, I need to find the product market fit. I need to find a way how to find enough clients who want to buy it and use on a regular basis and then tell other people to use it. So it's product. And then Series B is when you found the product market fit, which means you know how to speak to the market, the consumer likes your product, the consumer uses your product on a long period of time, and then tells other people about it.
Yeah.
And then you get to Series BC, which is the growth stage, where you just put more marketing money behind it to educate the market where it's important. So initially, seed stage, I would cover myself. Series A, we got investors on board to find the product market fit. And the hard part is we couldn't find the product market fit. We could not find a solution how to scale this company. So for 5 years, the only way how I knew how to grow the business is let's open New York. Let's onboard another 100 people in New York.
Yeah.
Like everything I did was so like, it was one of those things like, if I don't wake up in the morning and I don't call and scream and shout, we have a bad day. So it's like if the business was whatever my energy level was that day and how many countries I could fly to and find customers in. And that's not how you scale. It doesn't work like that. So we were never able to find that scalability until a little bit over a year ago, where all the things that we learned, all the data, everything came together. And this is literally end of last year when the rocket that we were building took off. And that's kind of like where we're at right now, where after having only one product, only blood test based, the data we collected, the consumers that we received, the continents that we were on, the gene pools that we had made us so unique that we were able to produce and generate the algorithm to create a second product called Bioniq Go that we launched then in the US end of last year. And since then we've grown substantially.
So before Go launched, how many blood tests had you gathered at that point?
Over 60,000. So we still over 6,000 people did the blood test. So it was a substantial database of blood testing. It was just very, very expensive to acquire those users because every user was such a hands-on experience. So we as a company, it's called a value of death, where when your revenue is between $2 to $5 million a year. It's too big to shut down, but it's too small to care. So we were onboarding more and more people, but the business itself didn't show any sort of capability to really skyrocket and become this global brand.
Yeah.
So data, research, amazing. Scientific proof, amazing. University studies, we had a university study in Turin, we had a university study in Munich. So we're like the thought leader, we're like the science company. But unfortunately, it's not a business. It's like almost like it's like a nonprofit where we keep investing money to educate the market, but the market is not purchasing enough for us to make sure that the ROI on our investment is coming back. So that was kind of like the journey.
When it came to getting investment, was that a fairly easy process, or did you really have to work your ass off to try and get?
I don't think anybody has ever. I think first-time founders all have the hardest time ever. I think any first-time founder you get on your show will tell you I had to speak to 60, 70, 80 funds to get funding. Funny part is if you're a second-time or third-time founder, it's very simple because people love giving money to founders who've done it before. So it was very, very difficult to raise any capital. And in the beginning, especially when your figures are so small, people just invest in you. Like I get into a room and I'm like, am I convincing enough? Because the moment it gets to the figures, it doesn't work. And the interesting with us is people didn't understand who we are. Are we a medical company? Because that's one valuation and that's one approach. Are we a e-commerce company? Are we a supplement company? And one of my biggest failures as a founder, which I think cost us a couple of years, was I wanted too much. I never, like when I speak about Bioniq today, it's personalized supplements based on blood testing data. Very basic. Personalized supplements based on data. It's proven. Back then I was like, we're the ecosystem of health. We are the biohacking platform. We're the personalized health, disruptor. I wanted too many things at once. And when speaking to investors, they didn't understand who we are. They couldn't understand where's the revenue stream, where it's coming from, how we acquire people, how we scale this business. And that's how you learn. So I think the fundraising, it humbles you, but also it forces you to narrow down on the one thing you're good at. Because there's so many people competing with you in so many different aspects. You need to really focus on one thing and become the best at it before even thinking about anything else.
Yeah. So what was the light bulb moment where you're like, okay, this is what Bioniq does. This is who we are.
This is last year. So this is last year when I met the neuroscientist in 2017 and I asked him, how do we scale? And he's like, once you have enough data points, you don't need the blood testing to then scale further. So I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, blood tests you can prognose the blood test results of other people by matching them against each other. So the moment we surpass the critical mass of testing data and we're able to launch a product that doesn't require the blood testing to start with, this was the moment where we were open to be a global company. Before that, as I told you, we had to go into a city, open up an office, have a local team.
Headache, nurses,
operational, client management, speak different languages, different time zones. So everything was super, super, super operationally inefficient. Now you have a database, you have an algorithm, and now we get tens of thousands of people per day coming on the website, filling in the questionnaire. We map the questionnaire results with other people who prior did the questionnaire with the blood testing data, find the lookalikes, prognose what the results would be like if they would do the blood test, and are able to produce a product that can be shipped to any country in the world. So last month we shipped
quickly.
Last month we shipped to over 70 countries out of the laboratory in London. US is next day delivery. So you go from this process where it's like book a blood test, the whole the whole thing. It's like a 2-3 week process. To fill in the questionnaire, get your supplements 48 hours later. Subscribe for 3 months. 3 months later, update the questionnaire, get the next 3 months, and that's it.
Yeah, because I hated it when if I'd been traveling or I'd left it a little bit too late to get the blood test, I would run out of my supplements, and then I'm like, I literally have no more supplements, and I'm waiting for my next batch, and I literally hated it. I was like, fuck, I have to go back to the pharmacy and start buying all this random stuff again,
and cutting it home.
And I noticed there was definitely a difference in the way I felt. Like I was starting to feel more tired, fatigued. I was more susceptible to being ill. So I just had to make sure that I did not let that happen again.
And this is when people ask us how long you should take Bioniq, and we respond, how long do you plan on eating healthy and sleeping well? It's part, like as long as you eat healthy and sleep well, it's part of your journey. And supplements historically was something you take for 3 months and then you stop, which is correct. Because you should not take something blindly for more than 3 months. Most likely your body gets used to whatever you're taking, and how do you know this the dosage you need? But when something is evolving together with you, it's part of your routine, and it becomes part of your routine.
Well, after the first time I did the blood test and I got the supplements, I was like, well, I'm having this for the rest of my life. Like this is, I'm not going to not have this in my routine.
And the crazy thing is, what we see, there's people who join us 3-6 months in, stop taking for whatever reason, travel, something else, whatever it is, and then they come back. And we asked them why you come back. It's like, I couldn't find any other substitute for you guys in the market. They're like, I felt better and I thought I can find something else, and I didn't. And I understand that you are the guys who are giving me what I need, my body needs at this given moment. And this is one of the strongest things. As a founder, again, in the beginning, you're like, I can't be the only one. Then you have the imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I really this good? Like I'm pretending. And then the customer speaks for itself. And then you have people like you, thankfully, that are like, hey, forget about the founder, the company, the product, it works, I need it. And then you're like, I actually create something that impacts people's lives in a positive way. And that's where you're like, then when the rocket starts. So that's when you really take off.
I love the data aspect of it as well. So I can go onto the app and I can just see all my results over time and how things are changing based on the batch of the supplements, and then the lifestyle, the time of the year, the travel, what my diet's like. Because obviously my diet here in Dubai is pretty locked in. But in the summer, I'm in the Mediterranean. I'm probably eating less frequently, eating out a lot more,
fried food,
not as
more
healthy. Maybe drinking a little bit more. And I notice like if I drink more, that really does negatively affect.
This is the thing. I think people are like, oh, well, you promised me you're going to be great all the time. I'm like, no, actually the data aspect is when you're not great all the time is actually more important to you. So you understand which of your habits impact you negatively. This is not a wonder pill. It's interesting that in the beginning, when you're so optimistic and so loud about your brand, one of the mistakes we made, I think cost us probably $10 to $15 million, was we had one of the largest VCs wanted to invest money into us. And the founder of this VC firm is a multi-billionaire. And his team is like, we love the brand, we love everything, we'd like to invest the money in it. I'm like, perfect. So what they do, investment companies, they do investment committee before investing money. So they come to the investment committee and they present to the fund manager, to the fund owner, like, hey, there's this company called Bioniq. We would like to invest money into it. We really like the team, we really like the product, we believe there's a big upside. They're like, no, you can't invest in them. Like, why? I tried the product. I'm like, and? The product is good. But when I spoke to the team and asked them, what does it do for me? What does the product do for me? They're like, oh, it does everything for you. And he's like, they completely oversold me. I don't like this. I don't like being told that this is the magic pill. I think they have the wrong approach to those things. And I heard about that. One of our client managers said that. I'm like, you said this solves all your problems? Like, I'm so sorry. I was just wanting to convince the person this is the right thing to do. I'm like, and they're like, yeah, we can't continue. We can't change his mind. I'm like, guys, this is supplementation. Supplementation is an addition to your lifestyle. There is nutrition, there is sleep, there's active levels. This is one small part of this. If your nutrition is off or your sleep routine is off, supplements will not help you. They will help you in combination with all the other things. So this is one thing that we learned very quickly. Never oversell, overpromise. Make sure you educate the person what's really core and that this is an add-on to their journey.
That makes sense. So talk to me about scaling and branching out to America.
Yeah.
Because this is obviously, it's a huge market, but I imagine the barriers to entry there are pretty difficult. I mean, I don't know, the regulations, the testing must be different to Europe. I don't know if it's easier or like more difficult. How did that happen?
So the US is its own. It's when people don't understand is like you have like Massachusetts, which is considered a small state in the US, is bigger than most European countries in terms of their spend. When you have like Texas, which is like Europe, like you have like certain things that the dimensions in the US, like you don't want to succeed in the US, you should succeed in a county or in a city first, because the markets are so big. Over 50% of the total supplement market is in one country, it's in the US. So all the other countries together buy less supplements than one country. That's the America. America is like just that big. You're completely right, legislative-wise, because it's different states. Like in the US, in New York, you can't buy a blood test. A doctor has to prescribe a blood test for you to do a blood test. So when you want to do Bioniq Pro, there's nothing I can do for you. I can tell you there's a doctor, go see a doctor. He prescribes you a blood test. If he decides that you need one, then you can do the blood test. So
that's still the case today.
That's still the case today in New York.
Okay.
So we just signed several partners nationally. We have like national laboratory chains. In New York, we had to find a separate partner because he had to have a doctor's approval for it to do so. So there's still limitations there. But the crazy thing about the US is it's a consumer central. People are loving new products. They're open to it. And for them, supplementations, when they hear $75, like in Germany for $75, they're like, oh my God, why is it so expensive? In the US, they're like, sure.
Yeah.
Almost like, are you sure it's personalized? For $75 sounds quite cheap. Like the US market is so used to consuming and trying and buying, and they will buy this and 3 other things at once.
Yeah.
They'll be using this and other things and just being like, hey, that's part of my routine. And what we realized the moment we hit the product market fit with Bioniq Go, the US market went from 0 to over 80% of our users. And today it's become grows and grows and grows. And it's not just, they don't just buy it, they are the ones who use it the most and they stay with us the longest. So they're buying it quicker and they're retaining longer and they tell more other people about it. And this is one of those things where I was always like, we're too small for the US, we're too small for the US, we're too small for the US. It doesn't really matter. You have to go into the US because that's where where the upside is in our sector, in our product.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come on my podcast who have clothing businesses. Yeah. And they like their main focus is to get from Europe or the UK to America because that's where it's like gonna fucking blow up.
I had one of the investors who was San Francisco based said the following thing to me: your biggest problem is that you got too big too quick in Europe. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, your success in Europe is holding back your company. I'm like, because you're successful in Europe, you're not risking it all to become successful in the US. You're playing it safe. The best thing you can do is shut down your business in Europe and start from scratch in the US and then try it to make it. I'm like, I'm not gonna, like, I know you're not, but I'm just telling you, and I've seen 70 companies like yours, and all of them failed because they were too successful in Europe and they were not willing to take any risks in the US. The only ones who actually succeeded were the ones who didn't manage to do anything in Europe, closed down the business and set up shop in the US and then, started from scratch almost.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, and you're scared. You're like, I spent 5 years of building something in Europe. I raised money. I told my investors, well, I'm going to close everything down in the US. It's such a scary proposition. But now I know what he meant. I could have done that 3 years ago. I should have done it 3 years ago. I should have become a personalized supplements company, laser focused in the US market. All that money I spent on Europe and the Middle East, I should have spent on on North Carolina. North Carolina alone would have made me more money than Europe and Middle East together over that time frame, just because of the openness to new products there and consumption there.
So if you can crack America first, then the rest of the world is easy or easier.
If you crack America first, the rest of the world is just a bonus.
Yeah,
we're talking about 52% of the market. Yeah. You're talking about 252 billion spent a year with 130 billion in the US. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what's the figures we're looking after? Like, you get 1% of that, you're what, 1.3 billion?
Yeah.
Like, that's insanity. When you have that kind of dimensions, everything else just is an add-on. Like, we're in the Middle East because the Middle East is interesting on a personal basis, on a market basis. But in terms of growth aspect, there's more people interested right now there than anywhere else in the world. This here for us is strategic. There it's growth potential.
Yeah. So when you move to America and you're starting to kind of get the word out, did the growth initially come from running ads, working with influencers, or purely just word of mouth?
The first layer is word of mouth, the very, very first layer, but it doesn't move the needle. Then the ads aspect happens, and this is where the ads become dangerous for any e-commerce business. When you get hooked on ads, you become way too reliant on them. So you need to diversify really quickly. We were able to see that the ads are capable us to grow us. So there's certainly demand there. And the moment that happens, you need to branch out and find organic ways. So we started with word of mouth and then put ads on it. But then right away, you do via PR, you do via partnerships, you do via events. You get business development teams out there, you do integrations with clinics, because the ads give you enough of a brand trust to start speaking to partners because they've seen you before. You're not just like some random guy off the street. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen your ad, I've seen your partnerships and all the kind of things. But it has to happen right away, because otherwise it's one of those things where what's going to happen first, you grow, the money runs out. So you need to really, really diversify the approach. But the US, because of its consumer behavior, is still capable of growing the entry part via ads, but it's just very, very expensive. So you have to understand, okay, this is it's a steroid. It's like you can do this once, but you can't do this forever.
What was your experience collaborating with these maybe like high-end gyms, leisure clubs, being at expos, doing these events? Were you able to track how effective they were? Because I know sometimes doing expos can be a bit of a risky thing. Like, it's a lot of investment to get the stand, the staff, everything else. And I imagine sometimes it would have paid off, sometimes not so much.
So interestingly enough, for our product, I wouldn't do any more expos or events or stands for foreseeable future. Our product is way too difficult because of being personalized. One of those expos are something where you want to go, you want to try, and you want to buy. Bioniq, you can't try and buy. Bioniq, you onboard, fill in, receive. So expo is not for us. Depending on the circumstance, if you speak to people who are decision makers, like clinics, then it's great to be there. But when you speak directly to the end consumer, we don't have the brand for experts like this. I tried most of them. I tried the largest ones in Europe. I tried here in the Middle East. I tried the ones in the US. I told my team for the next foreseeable future, we're not going to be part of stands anymore, but we're definitely part of panels. So I came back from HLTH, the largest healthcare conference in Vegas last week. We spoke on a panel about mistrust supplementation with some of the largest companies in the world who are doing supplements and receive backlash from the market in terms of mistrust. It was very interesting to see what they're doing, what we're doing, that there's a thought leadership that wants to change the approach to supplementation. And I think we invest more in that part. We want to be seen as a thought leader, as an evidence-based company, and not just about, hey, giving away free stuff at an event, or like, we tried that, man. It's not about us. We have to understand who we are and you position yourself. So I agree, as a startup, those events can sometimes be misleading, especially when you get like 200, 300 leads and you're like, oh my God, it was worth the booth. It was worth the events. It was worth to send your team there. But those mostly don't convert.
So did you know from when the company was growing, obviously you got this database of people who are consuming Bioniq, whether it's Pro or Go. Did you ever look to see if there was any like influential people that were consuming it? Or you're not allowed to?
So we're not allowed to anonymize, but when influential people reach out, 99% influential people reach out first to the management. especially if it's somebody who's very, very famous. They would reach out via the medical team that this such and such would like to try it out. Can we see your data? Can we see your research? Can we see the ingredients list? Can we see your partners? So it's very rare. We had cases where like Hollywood stars or like super famous people, also from the region here, just like you see a last name that you didn't expect, you know, like you're like, okay.
That's really a cool feeling.
It's an incredible feeling because they're like, there's a batch going out, such and such. We just see the batch. We're like, okay, there's a batch label there. And you're like, okay, wow. But majority of the people we're aware because their team would reach out to us to be like, hey, we'd like to try this product.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how Diogo got involved.
So Diogo Dalot is a player for Manchester United and for the Portugal national team. We've had several Premier League players in the past try our product and talk about it. And Diogo, anybody who knows him, and we became friends, you know, over the last couple of years, where he's a very innovator. He looks for the edge, how to get that extra 1%. So he heard about Bioniq and he realized that, hey, I've been taking supplements, but again, off the shelf. And he's like, I want to try it for myself. So he reached out. He's like, I would like to try it for myself. How can I get on it? What is happening? He spoke to his team, nutritionist. They sent to him. The team signed off. Yes, you can use that. So this is 2022. And so you start taking it, and you start taking it in the Manchester United locker room on a daily basis. So that was kind of cool for us because you have, you know, somebody of his stature taking the product on a daily basis, being around other professional athletes.
Yeah.
Who are like, hey, what are you doing? What are
these granules?
What are you granules? Like, you know, like when you're in a locker room, you're like, what are you like? Why are you playing so good? so there's a lot of questions. Like everybody's fine trying. As an athlete, you always want to find that edge. You want to find that extra 1%. So because he is such a student of the game and such a student of also the innovations and health aspects, he didn't want to wait till it's too late. He wanted to be always on the forefront, to be proactive and be, you know, to do something in that fashion. That's how you get him to Bioniq. So we did not reach out to him. He reached out to us, which again showcases the strength of the brand. Great for us. But then the relationship was built is a testament to him, and just as a person.
A certain somebody saw him taking those supplements.
During the time at Manchester United, a certain somebody by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo joined the team in Manchester United, and he spoke to Diogo and found out Diogo, and this is 2022, so this is back in the day, and he's like, what is this? I'm interested in it. And Diogo told him about it, and Cristiano decided to reach out to us to find out if you can try it and get on board on it. And it's like, you received that phone call. And as a founder, there's just the only thought process, like, how we do not screw this up. You do, like there's no excitement.
Yeah.
There's like everybody's like, oh my God. And I'm like, no, wait. How? Who's the best nurse? Where is she? What can we do? Who's gonna drive her? Like he's in Manchester. How do we do this? So it's like,
you want the absolute best service possible.
You're like, we're renting the car. You're driving the night before. You sleep at the best hotel close by. This has to be perfect.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where you're like, as a company, like there's one chance for a first impression.
Yeah.
So one chance for a first impression. And I understand that everybody's like, you should treat every client like this. Yes, I agree. Every client you treat like this, but still, this is the one where you're like, if this goes right, then there's a chance. There's a chance that our journey of educating the market, expressing to the market, showcasing the market capabilities might take an additional boost. And again, back then you don't think about that. You don't think about what happened, you know, almost 3 years later. Back then you think about how we make sure it all goes right. Because there's so many more hoops to jump through, because, you know, private, confidential, how do you do it in a way, security, like all those.
Yeah, because you can't let that data get out.
Yeah, you
like
can't.
The data of Ronaldo's blood.
The data, the anonymization, the security, the part, we couldn't put his name on the bottles. Like we're like, what do you want? He's like, what do you mean? Like, well, there's a name on this. What do you want us to put us there? So he gave us a different, like a name that we can print for him. And then he's like, okay, we need to. So one of the interesting things is
just someone in the, I don't know where it is, the facility where you're loading everything up, and they're like, what?
There's a funny story there. So that continues. So I remember. So we did all this, and they're like, okay, it's ready. And he's like, yeah, but I'm in Spain. We're like, Spain. Okay. How we get to Spain? And then one of my employees, Sarah, she's from Spain. She's like, I'm flying to Spain tomorrow. Like, get it to Sarah. She get on the plane. She flies to Madrid. She hand delivers it to him. She's like, hi, here's your supplement. She's like, good service. This is 2022, and that's how it started. And again, the crazy thing, because our product, the way our product works, is you do the blood test every 3 months. So every 3 months, it's like, would you like to continue? And then you wait for the answer. Like, yes, you're like, and then 3 months later, how's your experience? Like, very good. I would like to continue, and I would like to get, more people on it, and I would like to, so this every 3 months is like this check-in point where, because you don't want to, in between, you don't want to bother anybody, right? You want to be in a very, very confidential state. So this journey was very nerve-wracking for the team. And most importantly, as a founder, you never want to think about this because you need to build a business.
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, you're like, if this goes right, what are the capabilities? What is the potential there? But you don't want to ever hope for it. You want to make sure the foundation is there. So one of the things that I'm most proud of, that when we get to the announcement from last week, we were able to build and have that product market fit and that growth and have created foundation as a global business, all of that before announcing him.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I'm most proud of, because if you succeed because of him, that's a testament to him, to his greatness, to what incredible thought leader and persona embodiment of health he is. But when you create a product that's being demanded and used globally, and you add his vision and his belief and his trust to it, then I believe that's where you build really a global brand. So the fact that we were able to do this in parallel while building the business, while combining our regions, while building a global company, while developing a new product, while entering the US market, and in parallel support his Bioniq journey. And this is the interesting part. So when we speak to him, I was like, he's very, very he's very supportive of the journey and supportive of Bioniq. And I asked him, what can I share? And he's like, you can share whatever the truth is. Whatever happened, you can share. So I'm like, so his journey, that his touch points, his improvement levels, the things that he saw, the things that he felt, that's something that convinced him then at that point to be like, hey, I think there's more here than just for me being part of it. And this is something that when we start talking to him and his team.
Initially, was it him you were speaking to, like the first couple, every 3 months, or was it his team that you would? So
we would, again, the moment he would do the blood testing or receive the product, we would speak to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, in between, to set operationally up, obviously he has a team of a circle of people that you do this with. You do the admin part, you do via the team. The actual product experience, obviously, with him directly, because we want him to have the real, Bioniq journey experience.
Do you do the nutrition?
You can do that.
Yeah.
So that was all open to him. He could choose what he wants to do. But again, the explanation. So our chief product officer, Oliver, he was in touch. He would explain the details, why the ingredients, what the dosages are for, why the changes, how it changes, why the granules, why do we use Swiss granules, what the absorption levels are. So it was very much in the detail to explain the differentiation for everything else in the market. And again, when people, whoever I met him, he's very, very educated and open-minded to anything that is innovative, especially health-related. You can see this guy.
He looks great.
He's 39 years old, top of his game, scored more goals after 30 than most people did before they turned, in the whole career. So whatever he is doing, obviously, is a testament that he's looking after himself in the most, progressive way possible. And for us to be part of that tool set that he has to uphold it, it just speaks to his selection, but also speak to what we're offering is unique. That was kind of like the part.
So what was the stages where it actually came to him wanting to invest? Did he want to invest, or did you kind of plant the seed and say there is an opportunity for you to be a part of this?
So you never plant seeds directly. I think this is one of the things where as a founder and as a company, you
don't want to be too pushy.
You cannot, not even too pushy, because first of all, this person just wants to receive your product, right? There's if you come to a restaurant and you want a food, and the restaurant owner comes to you you want to buy
my restaurant?
I just like to eat the food. You want to be very, very understanding. First of all, it's health. Health is always personal. It's also confidential. Secondly, you don't want to ever overstep the boundaries. thirdly, again, this is a persona that is huge. It's like, where do you start? How do you approach? You would never find how. I don't want to, as a business, you want to push away somebody who's enjoying the journey or is trying to get the best out of the product that you're servicing. But it was an interesting process where during those touch points that we do have, because of the blood testing and the subscription, the topic came up naturally about what's the plan, what's the growth, how things are going to go in the future. And interestingly enough, after that meeting, a day later, somebody from his team reached out to us and said, hey guys, we would like to discuss. You spoke about the vision and about the growth. We'll discuss about the opportunity to maybe be part of that vision and growth going forward. So we're like receiving that message. So we texted him like, hey, somebody reached out. And he's like, listen.
Is this your team?
he's like, listen, this is, you can trust him fully, speak to him openly. He knows everything that I think about you guys. Take it from there. So the conversations were, listen, he receives millions of inquiries. You cannot imagine how many things. The thing with him is he only does things he fully believes in.
Yeah.
And he's like, for me, from his team perspective, this conversation is very, very transparent. You guys have created something that he believes in, that it's in line with his vision, it's in line with his approach. He uses you guys, so the product works for him. He believes it will work for others.
Already for 2 years.
For over 2 years. And this was one of the conversations where it literally ended with, we're going to make this happen. We're sure of that. And it's like, you never receive phone calls like this.
Yeah.
You don't receive phone calls like this. As again, you asked me prior, like, how's fundraising? Like, fundraising is very, very difficult. Here's somebody who doesn't respond to any inquiries and just says, hey, in my life, there are certain things I believe in. There are certain visions I have. There are certain brands I trust. And you're one of them. You're part of my inner circle. And this is a journey that I would like to be to be part of. And you as a founder, it's a moment like, you're like, wow, really? Is this happening? And interesting enough, after it already happened, so he already signed the documents, the investment already has happened, he was already in the cap table, still nobody believed it. Nobody believed it until, not even when we posted about it on Tuesday, still nobody believed it. The only time people believed it is when he posted it on Thursday.
Yeah.
So my dad didn't believe it actually happened.
Even when you were telling me, I was like,
right? I told him, a friend of mine, he's like, oh, I thought you're just spit, like you was talking, like nobody believed it. I'm like, no, guys, you don't understand. It happened. It's signed. The investment is finalized. It's in the capital. You can go and find, like, it's there. Like, yeah, no. And then we posted about it, and they're like, Photoshop? It's like fake picture. What's going on? And then Thursday happens.
Yeah.
And Thursday happened. It was an interesting experience because Thursday happened during the time where we had a strategic session with the team. So none of us had any phones.
Yeah.
So we're now.
Originally you put this post up and you
was on Tuesday.
You sort of asked for collaboration.
So no, we did the post. He knew the post was coming. We agreed that the post was coming. We discussed this internally. We discussed it with his team. Everybody's aware. Okay, here's the post. But we posted it on a day where he had a game in the evening.
Yeah. So
everybody in our team knew, like, most likely, listen, we posted like 1 hour before his game. Luckily they won. So we're like, oh my God, great. So they won. He's probably in this great mood. So we're like, okay, it's probably post tomorrow. So it's Tuesday, we post. Tuesday evening, he has the game. Wednesday, we're sitting. You're like, wait, I'm not going to call him and be like, hey, can you press the button? You just sit there like this is incredible. This is incredible. I'm like, guys, this is super. Like, everybody's like congratulating us. The news coming out, all the press, like the business press is writing about it. Everybody's writing about us. But it's still this feeling like you always have this, like, but until he does it, did it really happen?
Yeah.
Until that, so even still, the news is out. It's public. Everybody knows it. And then Thursday, and again, I was like, everyone's like, why don't you just write? I'm like, guys, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And Thursday it happens, and it's like in any business, there's a certain day and a moment. Like, everybody will remember exactly where they were at that moment. Everybody knew what they felt, and it was like the moment before and after. And since that moment, obviously, there's a big shift in terms of perception, in terms of trust awareness, in terms of just the reach out that we received, people that reached out since, the level of people reached out since, the level of organizations that reached out since. I mean, is the who's who of the world has been following up with us, chasing us, and we're literally like, yes, we will get back to you. There's a line, there's a place. Like we will, like this, the things that have happened in the last 72 hours. I mean, I tell people in my team, like, guys, this is a once in a career opportunity and a once in career moment. Do not let this thing pass without giving your best and taking it all in. But at the same time, also make sure you execute, because this is our opportunity to get to our goal, which is to disrupt the personalized health market, to disrupt the supplement market, to build a global brand together. And this is the important part. He participates on a vision level, on a product idea level, on a delivery level, where we believe we have now the audience to actually get in front of you quicker and with a more trust from your side. Because if I tell you something, you're like, well, you tell me because you're the founder. If a doctor tells you something, you're like, well, maybe he's incentivized. When he tells you something, nobody can incentivize him. There's nobody in the world that can incentivize him to tell you, hey, I've been using it for 3 years. I liked it so much that I put my own money behind it because I want to be part of the journey and I want to build something together because I believe this is the right thing to do for the future. This is the one thing that nobody can question him, because he has the option to do anything and he chose to do that. And not just as an investor, because maybe or not is good, because he used it first for 3 years and saw it on a continuous basis, what the team was doing, how the product development is, what's happening internally, and what we're trying to do, you know, globally.
The same with me. Like, obviously, I got on board in 2021, and then obviously I got to know you, got to meet the team. We went to some expos, and I was like, I actually want to be a part of this. I don't want to, you know, this to be a short-term thing. Like, I had the belief that it's going to be something big. I think it's the future. I couldn't believe that there's nothing else like that on the market.
And when we had this conversation in 2021, again, we as a company, we're like, it is Mike Thurston, like millions of followers on YouTube. He has access to different things. Like, he believes in us at this stage now, right? Again, you were one of the first 100 customers here in Dubai in the Middle East for us. Like, you were so when the Cristiano happened, I was proud also for you, because I was like, hey, remember 3 years ago? When I was like 4 people here in the Dubai office, like, you believed in us back then. Because of you, you're part of this. We grew this together. So one of the interesting moments that I waited for you, I wrote to you when we discussed this podcast. I'm like, hey, by the way, I have a couple of things I want to tell you. One of them is I think is going to bring a smile to your face was, and please, all listeners, listen to this part if you listen to any part. So I'm meeting with Cristiano in Lisbon a couple of weeks ago, and I have this updated presentation where I talk about the product development, what we're going to do. And one of the slides is called Bioniq Partners. And what Bioniq Partners, there's like famous athletes, Ironman winners, Olympic gold medalist winners. We have Diogo Dalot there. And there's Mike Thurston on that slide as one of the Bioniq Partners. And Cristiano looks at Mike Thurston and says, oh, I think I know him. Good podcast.
No way.
So I was like, when he said that, I'm like, I can't wait to tell Mike.
No way.
He's like, I think I know him. Good podcast.
That is wild.
Yes. So it was interesting. It was an interesting experience because, again, as somebody who's been part of the journey, I couldn't wait for you to tell, because again, it just showcases this everything is coming together in the brain.
That's the thing, you have no idea who is watching your content.
You know, again, and it was a small moment, but it was an important moment, and again, it brought so much joy to me, and I couldn't wait to share with you. So yeah.
Well, that is definitely a sign that I should keep doing what I'm doing.
100%. I mean, that and the 200,000+ followers you accumulated in the shortest amount of time, and that you were voted top 10 in podcasts.
The business and finance charts in the UK.
I mean, listen, that's something that, and from my perspective, again, I remember when you did your first one. And again, this was like
that was with Will Ahmed.
Yes. So
that was like, okay, we've set the standard now.
We've set the standard now. So yeah, it's an incredible journey for both of us.
I kind of, Whoop is in a sense quite similar to Bioniq, because they've created such a good product that, like, I don't even need to be paid to use it or promote it. It's like, no, I actually love this stuff. So I'm going to, again, like, I can't imagine not.
We're both sitting in them. Yes. So it's we want to create that. You want to create that next level, and I think data-driven part and innovation part, and yeah, it's certainly brands that make sense.
What was the obviously the initial shift as soon as he accepted that collaboration and it goes on his feed? Did you see a spike in orders?
Yes. So I mean, we're talking about 1,000% in spikes. I mean, figures that we've never come close with in a minute that normally would happen in hours.
You were prepared for that.
We were prepared for that, and one of the things that everybody was mentioning, also from his side, was that, and Diogo said that to us. Diogo said that to us, guys. There's just one thing you need to make sure: be ready when it happens, because it will happen big. And I remember that in Diogo, and I kept saying to my team, "Hey, listen, guys, we need to be ready. Like, we think we know, we don't know." And again, anything that you think, it's not about 100x. We're talking about thousands of x's.
So what's the plan for Bioniq in the future?
So we have currently, there's Go and Pro. This is the main products where we're developing. We're focusing on how to differentiate ourselves. What's the uniqueness of the brand proposition? So we understand that Bioniq is for people who have health goals and who want to start now improving their body towards those goals. So after we realized that this is our main target audience who is trying to improve upon starting today, it's not just about proactive, not about just longevity, not about prevention. It's about actually, I want to have measurable impact and improvement in the shortest amount of time going forward. I don't have to reach my goal right away, but I need to know I'm on my way starting today. And the proposition of the brand from the app, we're the only supplements brand has an app, because why wouldn't supplement brand have an app, right? Because we can showcase, you can track as you do your improvement levels. The way we educate you, because the education part is, okay, supplementation is one part of your health journey. What are the other parts? So what we're trying to create is for you to measure your improvement levels, give you the tools for you to measure them, and provide you with the product that evolves together with you and your needs. So this is the journey we're having. Now the next step is to educate more people about that, to become part of this journey, and explain to them why it's important to stay on. It's not just about trying the product, it's about trying the product and then making it part of their lifestyle. So the number one goal as a business in our sector is, how do we build the habits for people to make this part of the daily routine? This is the absolute priority. And we believe that measurements and education will drive that adoption on a daily level and will allow people to use them going forward. So everything we do, we think about, how can I explain to you why it's important, and how can you see that it works? So everything around those two facets is coming together.
And what is the long-term goal?
The long-term goal is where we believe that, I was asked this, what's the vision if you don't have any limitations? And I think the vision, we have no limitations. I believe the personalization should happen on almost on a daily basis. So I said to you, I think, I live in a world where I wake up in the morning, I walk over to my kitchen, my fridge has an eye scanner and a hand scanner that scans my eyes, scans my temperature, scans my hands, realizes how my sleep level was, what my recovery level was, what the lacks I have, what do I need, and then creates almost like a shake with the fat, the carbs, the protein, and the micronutrient levels that my body needs right now. So I want to take the personalization to the highest level possible, to be part of your life, to really provide you what you need. So to get to that part, Bioniq needs to be globally present and be part of your daily routine. So just like when you brush your teeth, taking supplementation from Bioniq should be part of that routine for you to really improve upon your health. So this is the next step for us, to get into more households, to replace the current vitamins that people are taking that they hope they work with vitamins that they know and can see that they're actually efficient to the body.
And that is the trend. Like, from all these podcasts which are now blowing up, there's just this investment that people are willing to make. There's a greater awareness that they now understand that, okay, health and longevity is actually something I want. I want, obviously, to optimize my current lifestyle and how I feel, but I want to live my life as good as I possibly can do for as long into the future, because I don't want to get to the point where I'm like 50, 60 years old and then, you know, maybe have another 20 years of life, but I'm absolutely like in a terrible state of affairs. Like for me, I love going to the gym. I want to continue going to the gym until like the day I die.
100%.
And how am I going to be able to do that? Well, I need to take care of myself. And the
Today, starting today.
Starting today, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, in my 20s, I probably wasn't looking after myself as best I could do. And I remember as soon as I turned 30, I was like, okay, this is something which I'd really want to look into. But I think now, from what I've seen, the youngsters are also, they're getting into it as well.
Our target audience, our target consumer, is probably since COVID, 7-8 years younger than used to be. People used to start at 33, 35. We have 25-year-olds on personalized supplementation. 25-year-olds starting. Actually, the 25-year-olds get on and tell their parents to get on it.
Yeah.
It used to be the mom of the household buys the supplements for the husband, then buys for the children, then buys for the parents. And that's like the children are getting on it. And like, hey, dad, mom, you don't know what's out there. You need to be looking after yourself. This is the new thing. So the people understand, and the age comes much, much, much younger. People are, again, we know that people start buying experience more, especially the younger generation. That's part of the experience. That's part of the health journey. And they start earlier.
I've always seen it as an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to develop any potential diseases in the future. And one of the best things that I can do is obviously take care of my lifestyle, exercise, clean up my diet, but also ensure that any deficiencies which I have are being taken care of.
100%.
Nobody's doing it better.
That's part of the journey that we're on together.
Yeah. And what a journey it's been.
Wow. Yeah.
Awesome, Vadim.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate that. And man, I can't wait for what the future holds. It is literally officially kicking off now.
Just getting started. I've been telling people, everybody's like, hey guys, thank you for anybody who was part of us beforehand. For anybody who's joining us now, we're just getting started. No worries. You haven't missed a lot, because the biggest part and the most exciting parts are ahead.
And where can people find you?
Bioniq.com and Bioniq Go on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.